For joining us today. Today is going to be, I think, a very, very special halaqah, and I just feel very honored and privileged that I'm sitting next to three pretty extraordinary people. You're going to learn a lot more about them, and so I'll share that in a little bit. But let me just first explain what tonight's about and why the ISBCC is focused on the marathon anniversary. You know, April 15th last year, we lost 4 of our Boston community members. First, Martin Richards, who is from Dorchester, right in our backyard, an 8-year-old boy. Crystal Campbell from Arlington, who's a 29-year-old woman. Lixi Liu, who is a student from China, who's 23 years old. And Sean Collier from Wilmington, who is 26 years old. All of these people had futures that were essentially short-circuited because of what happened. So, we, as the ISBCC, a faith institution of Boston, as the anniversary approaches, have a responsibility to commemorate their lives as Bostonians and as Muslims, and appreciate and be grateful for what happened after the tragedy, which was really heroic, and is something for us to be proud of as Bostonians. You know, I'm talking about the first responders, the law enforcement officials, first responders, by the way, some of whom were inside of the ISBCC. You know, law enforcement officials who quickly apprehended the suspects. If you haven't read some of the stories in the Boston Globe of some of the people who've lost limbs, and how they have strived over the past year, you have to read it. It's some of the most inspirational stuff that you'll hear. And part of, I think, the heroism is these individuals here who are going to be running in this marathon, representing themselves, the charities, and our institution here at the ISBC and the Muslim community. Now, as part of our, as a faith institution of Boston, commemorating the anniversary, we've got a number of things happening. So before I get the honor to, and we get the honor to listen to these individuals, I'm going to ask Ms. Sherry Andes to come up here and talk a little bit about some of the critical ways that we're going to be part of commemorating and appreciating what happened last year. Sherry Andes is a media consultant to the ISBCC. We have been happy to have her services for the last month and a half, and she'll be working with us through April. And she is a real gem and has done some really solid work with us, actually working with a team of us. So Sherry, I'll have you come, and she's going to make a couple of critical announcements, and then we'll get into the runners, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. So it's been my honor and privilege to work with you all in your community for this past 6 weeks, and I'm really looking forward to the race. So a few of the things that are coming up and how you can be supportive. Next week is a big week. Tuesday, the 15th, is the actual anniversary of the actual bombing. And Old South Church, how many of you were here for Juma? How many were here for Juma? Okay, so you heard Reverend Nancy Taylor invite you all to Old South Church next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. It's an evening of remembrance and hope, and we hope that many, many members of this community will attend. Imam Suhaib Webb is the featured speaker for that event. and it will be an important event in the life of the city. Sister Nicole, can you kind of raise your hand? Everybody turn around and look at the beautiful woman raising her hand. She has sign-up sheets for that event, and she's got little flyers for that event that you can take home and put on your refrigerator to remind you of the time and place. The second event I want to call your attention to is next Saturday night, which was also announced at Juma. At 7 p.m. at Trinity Church is an interfaith service. There'll be a fire lit in the darkness to symbolize light overcoming darkness. And Sister Suzanne L. Reyes will be speaking on behalf of the ISBCC as part of an interfaith team. It's only a half an hour service. It's going to be very beautiful. 3 runners, one from each faith, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, will be lighting that fire. And Ms. Jalon Flower will be the runner from the ISBCC who will be privileged to light that fire. So we hope that many members from here will be able to attend that. And Sister Nicole also has the flyer for that as well. The last thing I want to call your attention to is that we are engaged in a really exciting social media campaign. We're trying to get a lot of people engaged in the conversation about what it means to be Boston strong. And not everybody can write an op-ed the way Yusuf Valley has, and it got published in the Kansas City Star, and Sister Nicole also has copies of that for you to pick up and read. It's a wonderful op-ed that was in that paper this week. So not everybody can do that, but everybody can put their face and their Boston Strong sign on a Tumblr page. How many of you heard of a Tumblr page? Raise your hand. All right, for those of you who haven't, it's easy. It's just basically you get a photo taken of yourself, you snap a selfie, and you upload it to a beautiful picture in cyberspace with a whole bunch of other people's beautiful pictures saying, "We are Boston Strong." And Brother Mustafa is going to be helping take pictures tonight, and we're going to have signs for you to make, and it's going to be fun activity that we're all going to participate in together. Okay, the second thing is we're going to do a thunderclap. Anybody heard of a thunderclap? Not so many. All right, David has. So a thunderclap is when you time your tweets. Who tweets? How many tweet? All right, how many Facebook? All right, you can do this through Facebook. All right, even if you don't have a Twitter account, you can do it through Facebook, and all you do is you time a tweet to go out at the same time as a whole bunch of others, and we're going to time it to go out at the time the bombs exploded next week. And it's going to say Boston Strong, and that's a symbol of what this city stands for. So Brother Mustafa is going to help you get set up on that, and there's a little slip of paper that Sister Nicole has that can tell you how to do it too. Okay, so that's our social media campaign. We hope everybody will take part in it, and just enjoy the night. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thanks so much, Sherry. You know that when the Prophet went from, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went from Mecca to Medina, you know, his guide was a guy named Abdullah ibn Arqat. This guy was not a Muslim, but he helped take the Prophet and sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Medina. Through this tragedy, Sherry is our Abdullah ibn Arqat, all right? So just embrace her in the community, and you know, she's one of ours, inshallah. With that, I will turn it over. So here's what we're going to do today. Hamza is going to do a presentation on the marathon. You know, what the history of the marathon. If you want to go see the marathon, where you'd stand and where you'd be a spectator. Then after that, the runners are going to share a little bit about their charity, and I'm going to do a quick Q&A right after that with them to share a little bit about themselves personally, inshallah. All right, you guys ready? All right, so this is Hamza, Sister Leanne, and Sister Jalon, all right? And I will let you take it away, Hamza.
Okay, sure. Stand there.
Wherever you like.
Okay.
You stand there? All right, do you want me to put
Yeah,
that
if you don't mind.
Yep. Just make sure do you know how to work that? All right. I'll move that.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Hamza. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It really means a lot to my fellow runners, myself, ISBCC, to have you guys here supporting Team ISBCC. I'd also like to thank my family for being here, in particular my mother for putting up with all my nutritional needs and aches and pains over the last year, and my sisters, my brothers, and my nieces and nephews. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the Boston Marathon, and just why I think it's such a momentous occasion, and hopefully try to convince you guys to come out and support us, support the other runners. I know this is my second marathon, that having some familiar faces out in the crowd makes 26.2 miles just a little bit easier. So, so hopefully you guys will come out. So the idea for the marathon was thought up during the first modern Olympics in 1896, which took place in Athens. The Boston Athletic Association, or BAA, that currently organizes the marathon, at the time scouted and chose who will compete in the Olympic Games, similar to what the US Olympic Committee does now. They originally had a team of 11 athletes from Boston, in track stars from Harvard, MIT, Boston University, and they placed first place in 6 of the 11 events. However, in the marathon event, the contestant Arthur Blake didn't even finish. He only made it to mile 15. And that idea of a person going the distance in honor of their country left such an impression on those 11 athletes that they decided when they come home that they were going to start a local marathon. And that's how the Boston Marathon began the next year. Originally, there was only 18 participants in the Boston Marathon. Now, this year, we have 36,000 runners and 500,000 spectators. This is every year that we have this. The marathon originally started in Ashland and was originally 24.5 miles, not 26.2. It now starts at Hopkinton and ends at Boylston Street in front of Boston Public Library. Here are a few of the towns and cities that the marathon goes through. So, you know, if you live close to any of these areas, don't feel like you need to go into Boston in order to see the marathon and support the runners. You can go to one of these locations, and if you need more information, you can find that on the Boston Athletic Association website. So why is the Boston Marathon important? We all know that after last year's tragedies that this is a very meaningful marathon. But why should we go as a community rather than just individuals to support these runners to be part of this event? This year, and just to illustrate that, I want to tell you guys 2 stories. This is a picture of Roberta Griggs, also known as Bobby. She was the first female marathon runner, Boston Marathon runner, and women weren't allowed to run the marathon until 1972, which is nearly 75 years after the Boston Marathon started. Now this picture on the left here is an infamous picture of Bobby being grabbed by one of the marathon organizers in the back there, who didn't agree with the BAA's decision to let women run. And he's trying to pull off her runner's number. And then you see the man on the right there, a fellow marathoner who's defending her, pushing the marathon organizer away. Bobby went on to run multiple marathons after this. She showed up year after year after year, and even won first place in 3 of those marathons. Despite all that, and despite that initial resistance, today we have roughly 43% of the Boston Marathon participants being women. This year, among those 43%, Yusuf, are our sisters here. These 2 are not only running as women, they're running as Muslims. Even greater than that, they're running as Muslim women. There's no stronger representation we as a community can have than these 2. who are breaking down stereotypes that have been created about us as Muslims and of women in general, and taking part in something that the average person, man or woman, would not fathom participating in, even us Muslim brothers. Because let's be honest, us Muslim brothers love our chicken tikka and our shawarma roll-ups, right? But they have put their stories out in public, they've given their opinions, they've made themselves visible. These strong women are exhibiting all the characteristics that our community should be exhibiting. They deserve all the support of this strong community for being the inspiring examples they are for us to follow. So just one more round of applause for these sisters here. So why else is it important? In 1951, during the height of the Korean War, the president of the BAA, Walter Brown, denied Koreans from entering the Boston Marathon. And this is a direct quote from him of why. Something like that today is unfathomable without supporters coming to your defense. The fact that this right here is even going on right now is remarkable. And it's a testament to how far we've come as a city, as a state, as a country, that despite where we, our families, our past generations may have come from, despite what our beliefs may be, we're able to practice our faith, our lifestyles, and celebrate rich and diverse cultures without repression. The men who bombed the marathon last year, they called themselves Muslims. They walked the streets that we did. They went to the mosques that we do. Whether we like it or not, we were put in the spotlight once again. Like the man who attacked Bobby, like Walter Brown, there will always be people that say we don't belong. They will give every reason under the sun as to why. Do we allow them to make us feel that way in our own city, in the place that we call home? Our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers, they all know that we are part of the rich culture and history of this city and this country, but it is not their responsibility to make it known. That responsibility falls solely upon us. Like Bobby, we will always have our critics, but we will always have our defenders as well. But that means nothing if we don't follow Bobby's example and show up year after year after year and make it known to our critics that we are here and we're not going anywhere, so get used to it. So with that, I ask all of you that on April 21st, when people from all faiths, colors, and corners of the world run through our beautiful city, that we're there cheering them on, celebrating the spirit of our communities and the resilience of Boston. Come out so that we can say to everyone that this is home and we will not allow anyone to tell us otherwise. Thank you.
Thanks, Hamza. That was amazing. May Allah bless you for it. So now I'm going to give the runners an opportunity to share about their charities, and then I'll ask you guys a couple of questions about yourself. So we'll just go from left to right. And Sister Jalon, if you go first.
Assalamu alaikum. So 10 days to the 2014 Boston Marathon. I'll toe the line for my 4th marathon and get a chance to do it over. I was there last year in 2013, stopped at mile 21, and I can tell you that all of us have trained harder than we thought we possibly could. We put our hearts and souls into the effort, and we're excited and ready to go. And those of you that I'm friends with on Facebook have followed me along all year through every training run. I've felt very happy and encouraged to have so much support in the community, and I feel really honored and blessed to have this opportunity to represent, and I hope that I can do that well. So I won't win, but you can know that I'm giving 100%. And This year I had the chance to run for a charity that is really near and dear to my heart. I have an 8-year-old boy who's autistic, and so I'm running for my city's special ed department. So, and I'll just leave you with a thought that in the running community, there's a saying, it's, I dare you to run a marathon and have it not change your life. And I can tell you that that is the truest thing, because what starts out as an impossible dream becomes the best thing you could ever do for yourself. You get time to think, to pray, to get to know yourself, to set goals for yourself, and to do something for someone else. So I do hope I can see you all a week from Monday. Thank you.
So I'll ask questions at the end.
Assalamu alaikum, thank you for coming tonight. For those who don't know me, my name is Leanne, and I'm running the Boston Marathon. If you know me at all, you'll know two things. I talk a lot, and when I talk, I like to joke. Inshallah, I won't take up too much of your time, and I promise this time I'm going to be serious. So I'm born and raised in Boston, third generation on both sides of my family. The marathon has a huge place in my life. For most of us that grow up in predominantly white communities, it was truly the first time most of us saw flags and people from the Middle East and Africa. I can tell you where Morocco, Somalia, and Kenya are, and it's not because of a newspaper. It's because of Cosmos Nandedi, Abdi Abdirrahman, Mo Farah, and Khaled Khanouchi. Most of the elite runners in this race actually go on to compete in the Olympics for the marathon or the 10,000 meter race. Mo Farah, who is running the London Marathon this coming weekend, is a Somali Muslim that prays before every race, and he won the gold medal for the marathon in the last Summer Olympics. Boston's also the oldest marathon in the country, and it's one of the hardest courses because it's the only marathon that actually starts downhill. Some of you know this story, some of you don't. During last year's race, I was actually not Muslim yet. I had been exploring Islam on my own for a while, and many of my friends here would joke and ask when I was going to convert. And I actually remember once responding to a Muslim friend, laughing and saying, "Calm down, it's not like there's going to be some big sign from God when I need to do this or anything." Last year, no one in my family could join me at the race, and that's actually important because if you're raised in Boston, you never leave your marathon spot before 6 p.m. That afternoon, my friend from Jordan randomly texted me and said he wanted to watch the marathon, so he decided to show up. I was angry because he was late, he got lost 3 times, he texted me for directions, and finally I had to move to where he was standing. We stood on Boylston Street, cheered for runners for about a half an hour while he drank a Dunkin' Donuts, and then about a half an hour he turned to me and says, "Leanne, I have to go to the bathroom." And I really want to say that I was nice and helpful, but I wasn't. I had a screaming argument with him in front of City Sports on Boylston Street, and I told him he ruined my marathon day. So I yelled at him, "Throw your cup in that trash can, hurry up, I'm going to find you a bathroom." And I remember looking at my cell phone, and it was 2:25 p.m. And we walked down Clarendon and swung a right onto Boylston Street, Newbury Street. And 10 minutes later, that trash can where we threw our cup was the first one to explode. At the time, I was working for Mass General Hospital. Every single person that Mass General admitted that day with amputations was standing where we had been standing. And I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if he had not come that day, I would not have left my spot. That night, I received 35 phone calls from people checking on me, most of them family and actually non-Muslims. What a lot of you don't know is even though I had not converted yet, almost every single phone call asked about you because they knew I had started coming to ISBCC. Family in the Midwest that had never met a Muslim or knew anyone from the Middle East or Africa left voicemail saying, "Hey, are those kids okay? How are your Muslims doing? Anything happened to all your friends? Tell them we're thinking about them." And it reminded me the first time I ever came here, which was not my proudest moment. I showed up wearing flip-flops, short shorts, a tank top, and a ponytail. And obviously that didn't go over very well. But a stranger came over and said, hey, she has the right to be here. And even when I talked loud or didn't know the prayers that well, people kept saying that I still had a right to be here. So I kept coming, and I kept coming, and I liked it, and I began to look forward to coming and seeing all of you. And alhamdulillah, I converted last May of 2013. And I know some of you have actually never seen a marathon. I kept telling people it was 26.2 miles and no one said anything, and then I realized, I said, guys, that's almost 43 kilometers, and then that actually changed how everybody saw that. I know some of you are not from Boston, and you're nervous about what will happen on April 21st, but I want you to know that as a third-generation Bostonian, you have the right to be there. This is your city, and your presence matters to me. It matters to all the other runners, Muslim or not. The money you've donated, your words of encouragement. And I'm going to be running for Mass General Hospital's Pediatric Hematology Oncology Center. I'm just asking if you cannot come on April 21st, we're asking you post to your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram about the race, watch it on your laptop, on TV, and you can actually even track your athletes on your cell phone app. A few months ago, I was interviewed by a newspaper about the race, and a reporter asked me, what is your message for people that are going to watch you run? How do Muslims and non-Muslims come together to foster understanding? And I actually laughed, and I said the phrase that probably 90% of you have actually told me since I started coming here. I don't know enough Arabic, and I can't do the prayers right, and I can't do my hijab. And every single one of you looks at me and goes, step by step, Leanne, step by step. So I promise all of you tonight that I'll provide the running if the rest of you provide the steps. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Leanne. Thank you so much. Hamza?
Hello again. As I mentioned, my name is Hamza, and I will be running on behalf of the American Liver Foundation. As I'd mentioned, this is my second marathon. I ran the Chicago Marathon back in October. I was at work when the bombings happened last year, but I had two friends running. One of whom, alhamdulillah, was able to get home safely. The other one was no word from him. So I went into the city, found his wife, eventually managed to find him as well. And you know, it was I mean, quite a crazy day. And then he asked me to run with him next year. I never intended to. I'd never been a runner. I used to get bad shin splints, everything, the whole gamut. But I mean, it was such a thoughtful gesture that how could I say no? And so we ran Chicago Marathon together in October, and inshallah we'll be running the Boston Marathon together this year as well. And this marathon is particularly meaningful for me because I'm running in the name of my uncle, who was diagnosed with liver cancer. And unfortunately, he's not here today. So I'm now running in his memory. So thank you all for all your kind words and support over last couple of months. I see a lot of my friends here who have been, you know, my rocks, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hamza, will you just help me move the plate? So I just wanted to open it up a little bit for Q&A. As you can see, it's wonderful, wonderful people, very driven. So if anyone has any questions for them, any questions about the marathon, you know, raise your hand and I'll get us started. Here we have another mic. So Jalon, how many times have you run now?
This will be my fourth, inshallah.
Fourth time. Amazing, amazing. So tell us, like, what keeps you driven, and like I can't even imagine running that. It makes me tired thinking about it. So just want to hear, like, what keeps you going.
So this year, the incidents from last year have driven me. So I can talk about that the most. I work for John Hancock, who many of you know is the principal sponsor. So we have an excellent employee training program and a lot of opportunities through work, and it's part of the culture working there, so that helps. We get a chance to meet a lot of the elite runners, which is very inspiring and a little tricky because you see them and you think, oh, maybe I can try this. And and then honestly, once you start, for me, it became a passion, and I enjoy it. There is a lot of sacrifice that you have to make. You sacrifice sleep, family time, events during a training season, but the reward is, for me, outweighs the sacrifice.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3. My daughter's here with me tonight.
Yeah.
She's 10, and I have 2 boys, 12 and 8. So, and my kids all do stuff, so it's a lot of getting up at 4:35 to do the runs, and early mornings. So, but I feel, alhamdulillah, I've been blessed to have running partners, and that keeps you going too. Having friends that will run with you, and you can push each other, and you don't feel as crazy with numbers.
And Jalon, just tell us a little bit about yourself. You grew up out here. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Methuen, and I went to Northeastern. I work in IT at John Hancock, and I run. So right now, that's like my life, because we're so close to it. I'm looking forward to getting back to a normal, mom life, and my husband will be happy too. He always jokes with me, this is the big race that I do, the Boston Marathon, but I do other smaller races, and I'm always telling him to come with the kids, and he does come, but he's like, you run by and leave. We do all this work to see you, and you flash by for 5 seconds, and so I appreciate the support, but I look forward to being able to get more balance. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Leanne, I have a question, and you don't have to answer it if it. Can everyone hear me? No? Okay, sorry. So Leanne, if I may ask a little bit of a personal question, you don't have to answer if you don't want. One of the things that has just piqued my curiosity is, it's interesting that you converted right after the marathon. I would imagine a lot of people going the other way, particularly given what happened. And I wonder if you could share a little bit about, what impelled you. And I know you shared a little bit of that, but maybe you could go into a little bit more detail.
I've had a lot of people ask me that. Most of the people here who know me, if you tell me to do something, I'm not going to do it. It's pretty much, if you leave me alone, then I will make my own way. A lot of Muslims I had met years ago said, oh, this is our book. If you want to read it, you can read it. I don't think that was the only moment that was like the push to do it. I actually, when I converted, it was on a Thursday. No one was here. I came down in jeans, and I just did it with the imam. People said, well, didn't you want to be in public and make it a thing? And it reminded me of how people talk about weddings and marriages, and you plan the whole wedding for you. Well, are you doing it for the party, or are you doing it for the marriage? And I genuinely felt very organically, it was not about everyone else. It would have been nice to see everybody, but it was about me and about my faith, and your faith is supposed to be personal and private anyway, no matter what religion you are. So I didn't need anybody there. And then afterwards, everybody was like, don't you want something? And we went to Stop and Shop and got a watermelon and sat on the front steps and ate it. And that was my shahada.
And tell us a little bit about, is this your first marathon or have you run it before?
This is my first marathon. I've done 5Ks and 10Ks. I did track and field in high school, and then I was a Division I soccer player. But I come from a family of runners. Most of my family has done cross country. My uncle was in the Ironman, and he was in the Olympic trials. A lot of uncles competed in college.
So this is in your genes.
Yeah.
And tell us just a little bit about like what the training process has been like. Just because I know people will be curious, like how many times you go running per week, etc.
I actually had a shorter amount of time because Mass General, unless you're asked to be into the race, you have to do a charity. And normally you train for a year. I only trained for 6 months. So I followed Hal Higdon, who's the editor-in-chief of Runner's World. He created the idea that anybody can do a marathon. It's just baby steps. One day you might do 3 miles, then rest. 4 miles, then 10 miles, then rest. Swimming, biking, yoga, Pilates. I changed my whole diet. In 3 years, I lost 8 clothing sizes. But it feels amazing. And then running is truly one of those things, oh, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Hey, this is awesome. And it's like the first time I woke up for Fajr and I did oh, I hate it, I hate it. Hey, this is easy. Hey, I hate it. Well, it's baby steps. It's a process.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So Hamza, just tell us a little bit about your background. Just, where you grew up, where you're from.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Alston, Brighton for about 10 years, then moved to the North Shore in Lynn for a couple of years, and and now I'm currently in Newton.
And I know you're running this for your uncle. And if I may ask, could you just tell us a little bit about your uncle?
Yeah, absolutely. So my uncle was a Hakim in Pakistan. For those who don't know, it's kind of like a herbalist. But he was also he was a type of guy who was not only invested in your health in this life, but in the afterlife as well, and constantly just striving to get people to become better versions of themselves is how I always pictured him. He's the man who took me on my first tour of Pakistan and introduced me to the country and everything. And he was just a very powerful man, the eldest of his household, but still very gentle whenever he needed to be. And yeah, I think that would describe him pretty well.
So, just want to say that may Allah bless him, Allah yarhamahu, may Allah be merciful to him, and just ask everyone here to just do dua for Hamza's uncle, inshallah. When you pray next, inshallah. Hamza, was it pretty tough making the decision to run? I know your friend had a very strong influence, but describe that process for us a little bit, because I can't imagine doing it. Maybe it'll inspire me to do it next year.
Yeah, so my friend is quite the salesman, and he was telling me about his training for the previous Boston Marathon, and he was just talking about how your body type changes, and you kind of, a lot of what was mentioned earlier is just you have a clear head. It's very meditative once you kind of get the form down and get your steps down. You have a lot of time to think. And I had seen considerable difference in him as well. He was just much calmer. He was much more fit, obviously. And yeah, and he was just telling me about his whole experience training for the Boston Marathon. And the whole time I'm listening to him, and I'm just like, oh, that sounds really cool. I'm like, okay, he's getting at something. And then at the end of it, he's like, so you want to run Chicago with me? And I was like, yeah, I guess. So yeah, he really sold me on the whole idea, and I have to say it's probably one of the best decisions I've made. It's I know it sounds corny and cheesy, but it's very transforming to make that intention and just commit to it. And once you just start, you don't realize the benefits of it until you actually start doing it.
Anyone have any questions? Oh, yep, go ahead. Do you want to? So Ibrahim's just asking, like, how you know, each of the runners are running for a charity. So how does that whole process work? Like, how do you sign up for the charity, et cetera, et cetera? So which one of you guys wants to take that?
So most charities apply to the BAA and John Hancock for bibs, and then the charities, the larger ones, at least this year, because the interest outweighed the number of bibs, will give applications. You put in an application. If the charity accepts you, then you have to commit to their fundraising minimum. I think it's 4,000, 5,000, 5,000, and so depending on the charity you pick, has varying levels of support. So I know Children's Hospital, MGH, they often pair you with patients. That helps. Other charities are on your own. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
It really depends on charity to charity. I'm with the Pediatric Hematology Oncology Center. Like I said, all the money is 100% goes to fund childhood cancer research. One of the things Mass General does, which is known for, is we bring in patients from all over the world. We actually have a huge group of children that come in from the Gulf for treatment. It pays for hotels for the families that have to do extended care and extended stay. And then I don't know about the other charities. At Mass General, the reason why a lot of people are afraid to do it, you have to sign a contract and give your bank account, because if you don't raise the 5,000, they take it out of your bank account. And that's only because everybody would just run the marathon and not raise the money.
Can you guys each tell us where you guys are in the amount that needs to be raised?
Good question. I just got money from a generous sister, and I believe I'm at 3,100 now, and my goal to reach is 4,000.
I have to get to 5,000, and I'm only at 1,400, and Shahada presents.
I'm at 3,200, alhamdulillah, and I'm trying to get to 5,000.
So each one of the runners are going to be in the back right afterwards. Brothers who are sitting in the back, I'll ask you to clear out, actually probably right now, so that they'll start to get set up soon. But they'll be after that, and you can go up, and I really want to encourage people to give. I think, do we have another question here? Yeah, I'm going to have Brother Munaf go. Yeah, and then, yeah, that's why.
So he runs a bagel shop in Winchester, and what he decided was, because he was so affected. Oh, okay. So I know this event that occurred, last year with the Boston Marathon. It affected a lot of people, and we have a brother sitting right now over here who was really affected with this tragedy, and he runs a bagel shop actually in Winchester. And what he decided was that whatever profit he makes every day selling those bagels in his shop, he was going to donate to all Boston, the marathon victims, And he made it a point that donations will continue till the last person gets out of the hospital. And he actually, alhamdulillah, he followed it, And he's sitting right here, Brother Ihab, inshallah. So we should say him.
MashaAllah, may Allah bless him. MashaAllah. So, because we want you all to talk to the runners. Yep. Oh, sorry, one question over there. Yep. So we'll take one last question, inshallah.
In terms of the marathon, so I didn't understand that that's how the process worked. So I think the first step is you have to fund a charity or, go through with a charity. And you have to meet the minimum amount, like you guys had said. But are there certain qualifications, and can everyone get accepted easily as long as they find a charity to fund, or how does that work exactly?
So I know for me, part of the reason I ran Chicago was it helps your application to show that you've run a marathon before, that you had a fundraising goal, that you met that fundraising goal. But yeah, I mean, anyone can apply for it. There's also qualifications if you're a real runner and you can qualify by time, you can do that as well. I don't think any of us plan on qualifying, but yeah, so you can just put in an application if you have previous runs, even if it's a 5K, a 10K, half marathon, and you've done fundraising before. Just put all that into the application, and yeah, hope for the best.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, guys. So with that, 2 important announcements, and then we're going to actually have someone from our medical health initiative team, Dr. Shamila Khan, come in and actually make a mental health announcement as well. So before that happens, I'm going to ask 2 things. Number 1 is let's all of us come out and support, our ISBCC team here, inshallah, on marathon and on Marathon Monday, and let's talk to each other, and let's go in teams, and in fact it'd be nice to even go as a group. So and we can think through that piece a little bit later, but even if you can self-organize, I think it would be great. Number 2 is really want to help these guys reach their goals, all right? So I think we've got about close to 150 to 200 people, so let's give as much as you can, sacrifice a meal or 2 meals this month, and give as much so that they can reach their goals, inshallah. What's that? And your links are there. The links are on the website, and they'll be in the back. You guys with the computer, right? Yeah, and they'll be in the back, and you can enter on the computer, how to donate, etc. So please do that. So I'm gonna excuse you guys and get you to begin setting up, and call up Dr. Shamila Khan, and she's gonna make a quick announcement, inshallah. May Allah bless all these 3, inshallah. Khan, how are you?
Good. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm a clinical psychologist by profession with an expertise in trauma. And I was also a first responder last year at the Boston Marathon bombing. Some of you might have remembered me from last year when I spoke about it briefly. At this time, I just wanted to remind folks that, since it is the anniversary time, very often people get triggered. So traumatic events can be triggered around anniversary time. So you might be feeling things and be triggered in ways that make you distressed in some way or another. So wanted you to know that myself and a couple of other people from the mental health team are available here if you wanted to talk with someone. We're going to be here for a few hours tonight, and if you wanted to talk individually thereafter, we're available as well. If you could get in touch with Madiha around here, she'll be able to connect you with myself or other people who are available for that. And I also wanted to let you know that we have some boards back here. We want to hear your thoughts, your feelings, whatever it may be in regards to what you have thought about this event in terms of the Boston Marathon bombings and how this has been dealt with in terms of the anniversary. If you have thoughts or feelings, please take a minute to write those down on the board back there at the table. Also, I am working with a couple of women who have been targeted as of recent, and if you feel like you are somebody who's being targeted in some way and you could use a conversation with somebody else who is experiencing something similar, please do connect with us so we can provide you with some support. Thanks.
Jazakallah khair. All right, health team does phenomenal work. So please make dua for them, and may Allah bless them for it. So with that, we're going to officially bring the halaqah to an end. But I really encourage you to go to the back and talk to the runners. Again, support their charities. May Allah accept. And I'm going to end with, again, we've got 2 really important events coming up on April 15th at Old Side Church at 6:30 p.m. In Copley Square. Imam Sahib is going to be speaking at an event that's going to commemorate commemorate what happened last year. And secondly, Sister Susanna Reyes is going to speak on Saturday, April 19th at Trinity Church. So really want to encourage you to come. And then, of course, what Sherry announced about the social media work, please, take that seriously and participate in that. Finally, I do want to make one other announcement. There is a class that Imam Sahib is doing tomorrow in Worcester. It's called the Reliever course, the Munfarija. And I want to really encourage you to attend that. It's from 10:30 to 6:30 tomorrow, and it'll be again in Worcester. And you can go at ellacollins.institute.org and sign up for that, inshallah. All right, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and may Allah bless your families, and please make dua for our whole community. Assalamu alaikum.